meeting downstairs?
Well, it would be nice to be in the town hall proper, but they've got something else happening. I asked Gerard about that yesterday.
Where you go? Where you go? Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Sure. So you got the Christmas decorations up?
You could do your presentation at the end.
Evening club, I mean.
Yeah.
Who caught it first? Where did she pick it up from? Oh, it's been mild today. You want some fresh air, do you, Terry? You know, I had some handkerchiefs in the pocket. What's she buying you for Christmas?
I bought it myself, John. Very good job. Not to correct the same time.
Yeah, buy you something. Brilliant. Was that Mr. Ken? Not a club, yeah. Joe.
I'm happy.
No. Evening, how are you? Oh, good. Good. So is John still the
Yeah,
dinner?
you're going to have to start the meeting, I think.
Okay. Thanks, John.
And what I've done.
Not at the moment, not at the moment. Well, I did have a good night last night. Yeah, I feel good like that. One of those things, yeah. You never know what. You never know. That's the choice. At the end there, this one's in the pocket.
There's the tablet's working in.
Making me hot.
Yeah? Why is you tempted, doesn't it?
It does all sorts.
Yeah. People don't expect it anymore. Well, John doesn't expect it. You know, give me up. I expect my time.
So the motion won't go then.
Well, one baby. Yes, please.
Can I remind people that those present, please wear a face mask, so they protect others, please? Thank you.
So it's just lighter.
Yes, sure you go.
Right, so we can go there at 7 o'clock. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this council meeting, which for the first quarter of an hour or so I'm going to chair because the mayor is actually at a dinner. I think this is the annual event that the mayor gets invited to, and as we've not got a deputy mayor, as senior councillor, I'm taking the role. So, in no particular order, I've got 3 public participants, and we start with Tim Hopkins-Ball, please. And you have 3 minutes, sir. If you'd like to come up to the table, there should be a mic there for you if you find one.
We won't need one because I can project, but if you'd like me to.
It would be because we might have a public outside who are able to pick it up.
Right. Well, Mr. Chairman, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I am here this evening to make an official announcement. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Tim Hopkinson Ball. I'm chairman of the Glastonbury Antiquarian Society. The Society was founded in 1886 in this very room by the then Mayor Alderman Bullard with the purpose of preserving the town's history and antiquities. And indeed, His Worship the Mayor of Glastonbury is still ex officio one of our vice presidents. As a society, we own and preserve the internationally important site of the Iron Age Glastonbury Lake Village and the archaeological specimens excavated there, an extensive library and archives, and the town collection of artefacts, which has been in storage at Taunton for the last 40 years. We're an active society, and earlier this year, we acquired from the nuns of Foxhunt Green in Sussex an exquisite 16th century dish traditionally venerated as belonging to our martyr, the Blessed Richard Whiting. Now, earlier this year, our society was faced with a difficult decision. As the Tourist Information Centre is now based at St Dunstan's House, and Glastonbury Tribunal Limited had decided to surrender the lease on the tribunal building, the Glastonbury Antiquarian Society could either place the contents of the Lake Village Museum in indefinite storage in Taunton, or take on the running of the building ourselves. I'm happy to announce, therefore, that from the 1st of October this year, that Glastonbury Antiquarians Limited, a non-for-profit company established by the Antiquarian Society, has been working with English Heritage and has taken on the lease of the tribunal building. From next Easter, it will be opening as Glastonbury Museum and will showcase not only the Lake Village artefacts, but many objects from the town collection and items loaned by private individuals. As a society, we are actively seeking funding and community engagement. We're working in partnership with English Heritage and the South West Heritage Trust, and will in due course be actively seeking skilled volunteers, as the museum will be volunteer-led and run. We hope, therefore, that, Mr. Chairman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, you are happy to receive this announcement as it secures the future of an historic building on our high street. And we trust that you will support us in our endeavour going forward, the proper maintenance of Glastonbury's heritage in the town of Glastonbury, available for all to see. Thank you for your attention.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Tim. Excellent news for the town.
I'm delighted. Also, we have some leaflets. My name is Mary Parrish. I'm working with Tim on this, so I'm just going to hand them round, because now we can make our project public.
Lovely.
We'll get them around.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll jump again, but it's fast.
We remind members of the public to wear face masks.
We would, please, if everyone would put their face masks on. There are some here on the table if you didn't bring them. So, second one is Sam Dance, please. Sam, again, if you could come up to this mic, that would be helpful.
Come round or here?
Yeah, you can come round if you like, sit, and then you
If
can...
use that microphone.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah.
At the time of catastrophic housing crisis, while the rich seek approval for high-priced mansions on green agricultural land, and while dozens upon dozens face eviction from their homes, vans and caravans, we would like to thank Brian Ooten for his tireless effort to find real solutions, while others have stood against this and driven the eviction notices. Thank you, Brian, from us all in Glastonbury.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Okay, and then the next one is Claire Rosalie Burke.
You started Avalon Housing Association. I started it in July. Darling, so when I have nothing to say to you. Leave me alone. Otherwise, I have to arrest you. Leave me alone. I'm not picking up by you. Head on.
Thank you, Claire.
Sorry, Chairman. Right. Let me oppose myself. Apologies for that harassment before we start. Right, I've been coming here for several months, as you know,
and I have spoken on behalf of the Travellers Association of Somerset, and also the travellers and the gypsies and the van dwellers that live in this area. I am still waiting on a meeting with Somerset County Council and Mendip District Council councillors and with Glastonbury County Council councillors on how we can forward on the proposals that are being made. Also, I asked that maybe an appeal can be put in or a suspension put in regarding evictions, especially over the winter, until some plan is put into place on land or developments being put forward before these evictions, if they go ahead, are not done before Christmas or New Year. The people on Alchemy Alley, as we call it, Poo Corner, which is well known as, near the Poo Factory, also near the Zigzag building, they have received 2 eviction notices that I know of, and the last eviction notice was stated that they had until the 22nd of November to remove vans and caravans and all their possessions. Agreed, some people have moved, some people have gone ahead, but like I've explained before, we have an ongoing problem. We've got families, we've got people with mental health, we've got people with families, we've got children, X, Y, Z. So where do we put them? Right, that's the big question, where do we put them? My main concern is, because we're evicting them from different areas around Glastonbury, they're now being herded, because they have nowhere else to go, into a small area, and mostly down Cinnamon Lane, Brentford Road. So again, we need to look at land, private land that's been put forward with the Mendip District Council, Somerset County Council, to see how many places can be put into place, what can be done, because most of these people, like I said before, this is their culture, their history, their way of life, they ain't going to change. So by evicting from other areas, we've now got a larger problem, because people come here, like you know, for healing and everything else. So again, we really need to get together as a whole between the 4 units to decide what's going to be put forward for the future, because this problem ain't going away. I can only be a spokesman, I haven't got the clout that people have got high up. Right, the other thing as well is we as people need to know where we stand over the winter. And I'm appealing that the evictions do not go ahead, especially over the Christmas and the winter period. These people struggle hard enough as it is, without making even more people homeless and on the streets over the winter period. That's my request.
Okay, Claire, well, I think we received that. Unfortunately, I'm looking around the room, we've got no county councillors or district councillors, and you're probably aware, you're probably talking to the wrong councils, because unfortunately, as you know, we have no power in this regard.
Well, you're part of 4 units, and like I've said before, each of the 4 units makes a final decision on what goes ahead. So it's down to town council in Glastonbury to put forward their review to the other councils in order to make an agreement and have this stopped. And you and I are well aware that these enforcement officers do not give these people any prior warning. We were told that when people are away working, and people are away working at festivals, that they could go and get their vehicles back and they'll be contacted. On the day of the eviction on Briders Mound, they went in with tractors and went straight through the centre of their caravan, lost all their possessions, and these people were working in order to survive. When they came back, no home, no possession. And you can't tell me, as a whole, that you didn't know this was going ahead prior to the dates.
I can personally tell you I didn't, and I think this
Right,
council
then you
wouldn't
need to
notify,
find out
because
as a council.
you're talking to the wrong council, I'm afraid. That's what I'm
Right.
trying to explain to you.
Then, like I said, as a whole between the 4 units of MAG, there needs to be better communication.
Okay.
And you need to find out what is going ahead from the other councils before it does go ahead and more people are evicted and more people are made homeless.
But I would steer you
Right.
towards your district and county councillors, because they're the people who are going to make the decisions. But anyway, thank you for speaking this
Right, let's
evening,
be
and
more honest.
your comments are noted again.
Right,
Thank you. Okay, we're going to try and keep this moving. So I think Sergeant Lacey is going to speak to us now.
Sorry, I have communication with John Cousins. He said he put me on the list to speak tonight.
I haven't received that, and that's what I'm sure.
I think we've rattled through this pretty quickly, so I'm happy to take your...
Thank you. I'll be brief.
Thank you.
Good evening all. My name's Andy Reid. I'm here today to represent the Manhouse Road Community Garden. As I said at the last town council meeting, I believe it was, some of you may know us or have heard of us or even visit us, but the garden has been a constant feature for many years. Since 2018, the local community has been working to recreate the beautiful and useful space. I outlined that last time. We now have a wonderful community garden. I mentioned at the meeting, our worry is when the transfer from MDC goes to the unitary authority, I can't say it, this space, this amazing space that we've created, could just be another piece of building land. So, my request to you is that the town council adds this as a subject to the agenda, to be able to, at the agenda of the Properties and Assets meeting on the 22nd, so that you can actually discuss the fact that you might be able to take this bit of land into local ownership.
I'm looking at the chairman now, and do I see a nod that we could do that?
Excuse me, Chair, may I speak to this?
Yeah.
I did actually bring this up at the last Property and Assets meeting, asking that it be added to the asset transfer that we are negotiating with Mendip District Council. So it will come up again at the next meeting because it was talked about at the last meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chair, I'm sure we can take that as an item on the agenda for the following meeting.
Fine, thank you very much. Okay, thank you for speaking. Good. Okay, so is there anybody else who hadn't brought the form forward who wanted to actually speak?
Yes.
You have 3 minutes, madam. Would you like to announce your name so the town clerk can write it down?
Sure. My name is Linda Catherine Esterhazy Klein Steer. I moved to Glastonbury in late May this year, and in July I started the Avalon Housing Association. I've written several letters. I wrote letters to the councillors, Glastonbury Council, and I would very much appreciate replies. I also wrote to an organisation that is sort of like a conglomerate of housing associations, and I haven't heard back from them. So I'll probably have to send some more letters, and I would very much like to find land. I have a track record of this type of work. In 1982, I started a campaign to have houses with individual gardens built in London, where I was living. And it took 18 years, actually, for the permission for the ground to be used. But one thing I did to make it work was when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, I saw him on television, and I ascended to him something that I knew was a law that he had already made, but this footage was prior to when he made the law. So I said to him, make a law that councils may give their land and buildings to housing associations, and we'll get a lot more people housed. And he said, that's a good idea. I think I might make that law. And I said, it's your own idea. And he went like, what? Anyway, so he made that law, and that was how we got the land for the houses. So I'm hoping that that law still stands. I don't know where to begin to look for that law. Perhaps one of the councillors or the mayor will be able to look up the law that Tony Blair made about councils giving their land and buildings to housing associations to create homes. And the people that I would like to house first are those in caravans and vans. Apart from those who wish to stay off-grid, that's up to them. Just don't know if there's anything further to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, all right.
Thank you very much.
I'll just give you, I'll just say my care of address is either via the council reception office or 12 Market Place, Glastonbury, BA6 9HH. That is just across the road and along. It's a cafe.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, in that case then, can we move to Sergeant Nancy, please?
I'll take a seat if that's all right. So as I understand it, I'm here for two reasons this evening, Mr. Chairman. If it's all right, I'll deliver the usual police report first and take any questions around that and policing generally, and then I'll give you a little talk about the antisocial behaviour tools that we use in the town. All right, and before I go on, if I can just thank again Glastonbury Town Council for the support they give the local police, and wish you all a very happy Christmas and a Merry New Year, because I'll forget later on, I'm sure. That's it. So in the last, so since we had the last report, the two PCSOs, Mel Rowlands and Brad Hefferman, have been working on the new mini police unit at St Benedict's. This is the second year they've run the mini police, which is made up of a group of Year 5 pupils. This is a scheme to improve police engagement with younger members of the community, to make them aware of the roles of the police and PCSOs, and to encourage them to take an active part in the local community. So following on from that, they took part in a Night Crime Awareness Week, creating posters to display around Glastonbury Town Centre to raise awareness of the dangers of carrying knives. They've also done their first community project, which was a litter pick at Tor Leisure playing fields. We've also continued to run our Come and Meet Us sessions, which were previously known as Beat Surgeries and Couple with a Copper. They've been rebranded force-wide, so every neighbourhood areas use the same terminology, hence we use it. They've been run in the mobile police stations by PCSO Rowlands and PC Miller in Tesco's car park on North Street. Obviously, we will continue to run these sessions as COVID restrictions allow going forward. And then they'll always be advertised on the local Facebook page. We've dealt with an issue of antisocial behaviour at the community fridge, following also one on the High Street, which resulted in an ASB letter being issued to the person concerned. As you've heard, we are continuing to support the eviction processes in and around Glastonbury. The most recent one is the Beckery. I can't supply any more information or dates on that before anyone asks me of those. The numbers are down, and we are, just for the avoidance of any doubt, before we take any eviction processes, we do make sure that all other agencies are consulted to make sure that all safeguarding measures, such as mental health and housing, are all considered as before we do it. All right. Someone who's wanted on warrant was found and arrested. We are supporting the Tor School and Dunstan schools for regular engagement. We support a local nursery school, and the investigation into the damage to the defibrillator on the Tor is ongoing. And that's the report in its basic terminology. I'm happy to take any sort of general questions around police, if there is any, or any questions on that report.
Anybody got a question with the Sergeant? Yeah, of course.
Tom Miller.
Yeah. He is, yeah, he's been promoted. He'll be a sergeant over at Shepton. We've got a replacement identified and recruited already, and I'm just waiting for an official start date. So will that leave a gap in the meantime, or? I'm hoping it will be seamless. Great. I don't know, it's above my pay grade, those sorts of moves, but I would, I'd like to think it's going to be a seamless transition. All right. Anybody else before you move to your second bit? No, good,
Okay,
thank you.
We'll run on. Okay, I have got lots of facts and figures, which I won't bore you with, but if anybody wants anything specific, if you let the town clerk know, I'll let you have them in due course if anybody wants them. So, what I'm here to talk to you about this evening is the tools we use in terms of antisocial behaviour. Now, this runs alongside anything criminal that happens in and around the town centre, or in fact anywhere in Glastonbury, and what it is designed to do is to try and prevent patterns of behaviour that cause a nuisance to local residents, and these are used force-wide against anybody who is causing a nuisance to the local community. This is managed primarily, I was hoping she'd be with me this evening, but she couldn't make it unfortunately, by another team of 3 people who run the antisocial behaviour unit and oversee a lot of what I'm about to talk to you about. And they work alongside us in dealing with it. So in basic terms, how it happens is that when someone comes to our notice and has caused either a criminal offence and antisocial behaviour or purely antisocial behaviour. Now, obviously, a lot of what we're talking about is public order offences, drunken disorderly. There's a Section 5 Public Order Act is the one that's quoted an awful lot, which is the lower level shouting and swearing in the streets. Now, some of it I appreciate is subjective, because what one person might find offensive, another person doesn't. So we have to always make sure that there is a balance running all the way through this. Clearly, some behaviour is criminal and some behaviour is antisocial. So we always have to, at the very base, at the very start of all this, work out what we're dealing with. If it's criminal, then we can consider criminal charges, but that doesn't stop us also using these antisocial behaviour tools alongside of it. Have I made myself clear? That is with me so far. Or if I lose anyone, then I'll rephrase it or clarify it. So what happens is there's a 4-step process we get to before anything formal in terms of law is taken, and that forms a series of letters that is delivered. Now, at the very basic level, which is there's no science to it. It's a level 0 letter is what you get, which is a letter saying, we've noticed that you've been involved in this, you've caused disturbances to the community, can you stop it? That's it, that's basically all it says. And then you gradually, as they come to notice, work up through it to a level 4, which says, right, you've had 2 other warnings, you must now stop this, or we will now look at legislative interventions to stop you dealing, to stop your levels of behaviour. So what that looks like is we move to what's known as a community protection warning, which is the first step legally in the process. So it's a legal document we give to somebody that says this is what you can't do, or this is how you cannot behave in public anymore. And if they breach that, it then goes to a community protection notice, which becomes an arrestable offence. And if they carry on, that's when we can look at things like injunctions for people. Okay, so sounds simple enough so far, doesn't it? So effectively, if you come to notice, on a regular basis, you should find yourself with a community protection notice. And if you read the legislation, it does actually look quite simple. However, as with most things, it's never as simple as it sounds, because there's a lot of things we have to consider on the background, because we have to demonstrate as a team that we've offered support to deal with the root causes of their behaviour, of their misbehaviour. So we're talking about, is it mental ill health? Is it drug addiction? Is it alcohol addiction? Is it family situation they found them in? Is it homelessness? So we have to, throughout this process, we have to demonstrate that we've helped them along the way best we can. We also have to say that we've offered them education to stop their behaviour. So we're talking about referrals to drug and alcohol referral services, detox facilities and courses, and also if they commit criminal offences, have we investigated them, have we taken them to court when we can, have we tried to enforce where we can as well, and we always try to where we can. We also then have to say that it's actually necessary to do this, so we have to go away and we have to find people that have been deeply affected by this behaviour and actually prove how this person's behaviour is being a blight on the community or is affecting the local community. Right? And all of this has to be corroborated, which tends to be where a lot of our problem starts, because we need witnesses and we need statements, because ultimately all of this can be challenged in court. Because you're taking away certain restrictions to people, or take away certain rights and privileges to people, so they can't behave this way, they can't go here. So actually, if it's challenged in court, we need to say this is a proportionate tool that we're using to deal with this problem in the community. All right. And we always try and deal with it voluntary to start with before we go punitive, because we try and bring people along with us. All right. And if at any point, just before anyone's asking, if they go to prison in that process for any reason, that doesn't stop that process from happening, because what we're saying is the behaviour is only stopped because they've been taken out of circulation in the community. So someone who goes to prison for 9 months and then comes back out and the behaviour continues, that doesn't send them back down to the bottom of the scale to start again. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that so far?
Good.
Well, so that's what we are. It sounds quite simple. However, it can take some time to go from beginning to end, because we need to demonstrate all of the above on the way through, and it is a big old bit of work. It can be a big piece of work.
Just ask the chair, point of clarification. We had a little scene probably a month or so ago now outside Markbury, where a fellow, I'm sure you know, came along, started roaring racist abuse, and there was a black guy sitting outside the cafe. What the fellow didn't know was he'd just done 20 odd years in the Royal Marine. So
okay.
To his great disadvantage, he launched into this tirade and found himself upside down. Not badly injured, but he provided tremendous entertainment when he was out.
Okay.
He was very reserved and speakable. And I wonder what you do with somebody who keeps on and on doing it, but apparently repeatedly does. He does it, some easy guys will take.
Okay. Well, that's a criminal offence, so we would have to investigate it, and you'd be looking at a racial aggravated offence.
Does it eventually go to jail?
Potentially, that's down to the courts, not to the police, obviously. Yeah. And then what you have to remember, and I was going to point out, but I'll deal with it now. By arresting someone for a low-level offence, such as a drunken disorderly or a minor public order offence, the chances of them actually going to prison is 0, I would suggest. So what will happen is they'll, and bear in mind I used to be a custody officer as well, so I'm aware of processes in that. So they'll come into custody, they'll get charged with drunken disorderly or a minor. The chance of them being remanded for court overnight is slim, because they're not going to go, almost certainly not going to go to prison for it, and the chances are they'll be given a fine or some sort of community order and then released. What this antisocial behaviour process does, and it can run alongside criminal proceedings as well, is building a sustainable sort of building a long-term strategy to deal with someone's poor behaviour. So actually, when someone gets to a community protection notice, that is normally granted for 5 years. So you can't do that for 5 years, and any breach of that notice is a criminal conviction, which, and I meant to check, but it certainly was 5 years imprisonment for breach of that community order. So, whilst arresting people for low-level offences works very, very simply, and it deals with the initial situation, I'd like to think we're trying to, and I've spoken to Town Clerk on a number of occasions, that I'm trying to deal with it long-term. So you might not see, I've been in post for 2 years now, and I've got some figures that I've got here that I'll give to you shortly, where we have had some successes, but obviously Glastonbury, being the amazing place it is, has a very transient population. And when we deal with one particular individual, there's always another one that's going to sort of slide in and take their place. But what we're trying to do on a number of fronts is ensure that there is a consistency, that people know that when they come to the town, they might be a pain for a short period of time, but they will get dealt with by the neighbourhood team. That's my vision for it, and I think with and if you look at the raw numbers, certainly recently, and I'm sure there'll be people around here who will disagree with me, and I'll take it, but going by official police figures, antisocial behaviour in Glastonbury High Street is down. it's comparable actually with Street and Wells High Street at the moment. In terms of our numbers, now you people may disagree with me, and the crime surveys don't always reflect the police figures, do they, when they come out? But in terms of what we're seeing and what I'm reading, it's comparable. You're never going to eliminate all of antisocial behaviour in every high street, I would suggest. But at the moment, touch wood, it's down. Let's put it that way.
Good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else from anyone?
Yeah, I've got an issue. We've now got speed restrictions on us.
I'll come to that. Let's deal with the antisocial behaviour. Pause that if it's to do with speed. But I'll
bringing it up, are you?
I can do right at the end. Yeah, hold that thought. I'll come back to that. We'll go through the antisocial behaviour stuff. So, where were we? Okay, so we've also got the public space protection order, which was used in the high street. Now, I'm sure everyone around the table here is aware that there is, again, there's some confusion about whether Glastonbury High Street is a no drinking zone. It's not a no drinking zone, it's a restricted drinking zone, which means that we've got no power of seizure at all in terms of people drinking in the high street. What we do have is a power to ask someone to stop, and if they don't, that's when they commit the offence. But we don't have any power to seize the alcohol. We report them to Mendip District Council and they take enforcement action, and they have taken enforcement action against some individuals recently as well. All right, so that's where that is, and there's a similar with the dogs on the leads, that side of things as well. And it is quite a powerful tool, but I just think that maybe people think that we can do more with it than we actually can, right, in the high street. Okay, and with the busking, we quite often get complaints about the standard of people's busking, but I make the analogy that I'm not Simon Cowell, so I can't and my team can't say that they got to move people on busking. That comes down to is it your policy, the busking, or is it Mendip?
No, it's Mendip, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we refer them back to the policy, and that's going to be down to how you want to manage it. But we certainly don't have, if someone's holding a guitar and singing, well, what's the definition of busking, I suppose, is what you would say. Code of conduct, sorry, that's the
therefore it's not enforceable.
Yeah.
But we can request that, and it was written by buskers.
Yeah.
So it was internal in the busking.
Yeah. I think where that stems from is that last year, I've not seen it this year unless anybody really feels strongly, is that that came from the beggars, and we did try to deal with the beggars in a certain way last year, and they then obviously cottoned onto the fact that if they were busking, they were begging. So some of the more questionable standards of singing and musical instrument playing, I think, is that where that sort of stems from, unfortunately.
Yeah, can I ask about the public space protection orders? I'm led to believe the signage needs to be replaced to conform with the new legislation or changing legislation.
Yeah.
Have we, and I've offered to pay for the signage to be processed along. It seems to be a bit of a black hole.
I'm not sure if it needs to be replaced or it's the one in the churchyards we're talking about, and I know, yeah. So as far as I know, that's on order, and that's been done through Mendip. I'll chase it. Brad Heatherman is the lead on that, but I will chase that up, because the churchyard is obviously a bit of a pinch point for us sometimes. Okay. So in terms of where we are at the moment, so January to date, ASB incidents in Glastonbury Town Centre. Now, when I say Glastonbury Town Centre, this is not just the high street and out here. This encompasses all of Glastonbury, unfortunately. The police's computer sort of grids the whole of Glastonbury as Glastonbury Town Centre. And antisocial behaviour can take anything from neighbours shouting at each other to people in the street. So some of the numbers might be a bit shocking or sound a bit shocking, but they're not too bad. So January to currently, we have 330 reports of antisocial behaviour in and around Glastonbury Town Centre. And off the back of that, we've had 113 arrests. In terms of letters that we've issued, we've had 29 people have had letters issued, covering a further 79 incidents. And in terms of what I was referring to earlier, 4 people have received community protection notices, and 6 people have had are currently on community protection warnings, which is obviously the first step. So that's 10 people And then obviously we had the closure on the premises in Benedict Street as well, which was a big bit of work that the team undertook in the year. So that's where we are at the moment. I'll make sure I haven't referred anything else. Where we again, I'll go back to where we're falling down and perhaps where we struggle with moving things forward is where it comes to the corroboration of evidence, because obviously we'll get things phoned in to us and say so and so is doing this, but actually when we go back and either try and find witnesses or good quality evidence to demonstrate the behaviour, we quite often fall down. Hence why whenever the team are in, people tend to behave, and when the team are off, people misbehave. We get phone calls saying this person is misbehaving. So we do spend a lot of our time sort of chasing up sort of CCTV and witnesses to help us gather the evidence to take certain people through the antisocial behaviour steps and get them to behave themselves, quite frankly.
So is the CCTV effective now?
CCTV can be, but it doesn't record sound, which is obviously a bit of a downfall in the system, because obviously if someone is sat down and they're shouting whatever it is they're shouting, then we're not going to pick that up, and then all we're going to get is someone sat down. And again, that's what we tend to get, because we've had a number of calls when someone will say, oh, so-and-so's in the town centre. Well, just because somebody's in the town centre doesn't necessarily mean they're doing anything wrong. But because they've misbehaved significantly in the past, we would automatically get the phone call saying they're in the town centre. Well, that's fine. They live in Glastonbury. They're allowed to be in the town centre as it stands. So, and that can all sort of push our call numbers up a little bit as well. So we have to bear that in mind. But CCTV, it's a great tool. It's a very effective tool. I wouldn't want anywhere to be without it, but it's not the be all and end all that everyone thinks it is, because we lose the sound, which is a lot of what antisocial behaviour is, isn't it? It's noise and language.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to answer the 20 mile an hour question.
Yes.
Why I'm bringing it up is we've got 20 miles and it increases to 30 miles per hour. But I've seen children come out of that school and cars doing 60, even more miles an hour, gone by as old school children that come out of school. There used to be police patrols along that section, watching the speed of the traffic. I wonder if we could reintroduce that again.
We have been up there. We've been enforcing the 20 mile an hour limit since it came in. So we have been along there. And we will continue to do so.
Okay, you answered my question.
Good.
Does that help in terms of understanding what we do and where we come from? Julie does it a lot better than me, who's my oppo, but she unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, so I've tried to use the analogies. As I say, it can be a longer process, but actually it can be covered very quickly. If someone if say for instance we have a new resident of Glastonbury turn up and they are a real pest over a weekend, as we've had before, we can go straight in a sort of a level 3 or level 4 letter, as long as we can go back and collate the evidence of all the misbehaving over the weekend, all the antisocial behaviour. And we can apply for community protection notices off the back of conviction as well, but we need a number of convictions, and we still need to go back to the fact that we've offered them support, education, and it's justified and necessary to restrict someone's life in that way.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Just to reinforce what Simon said here, is I attended a meeting with some of the shop businesses, where I just explained to them as well.
And I think you agree that Julie does it better, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I felt it was very well received. I know the numbers were low, but I think that was COVID. But I thought it's a great starting point, because there are a lot of businesses in the town really struggle with the antisocial behaviour, and it affects their business really badly. Well, so I'm starting to put that in now set it up to
Yeah, and we will.
building blocks for the future of the high street.
Speaking quite openly in this forum, I was a bit disappointed at the number of businesses that attend, but I'm not going to stop doing it yet. I'll keep offering the opportunity to come out, because Glastonbury High Street is unique in the fact that there's virtually no chain businesses. They're all owned by local people and run by local people, and I want to, I want to support them and make sure that Glastonbury is a thriving town that people feel safe to visit and shop and spend their cash, especially at the moment.
Excellent. Well, we're pleased to hear that. So my question is going to be, it's the 14th today, which means in 7 days' time, it'll be winter solstice.
Yes.
Are you well aware of the consequences of that? Because whenever I've raised it in the past, then officers have said, oh, well, we hadn't really realised what was going to happen. Well, here's 7 days' notice of what's going to happen.
I've been in planning meetings since the summer solstice about the winter solstice. I've got to choose my words very carefully. I would have liked the adjustments to Stone Down Lane to have been made, but unfortunately haven't been made yet. So I understand they're due to be in the next year. As it stands, we are obviously, we have extra patrols put on. We're also going to be patrolling with the National Trust and Mendip Town Council on the day in question as well.
Excellent, thank you.
And we will keep an eye on the situation over the weekend. Early indications, I do, and I know people, again, will find it hard to believe, we do look in the future to see what's planned, but we can't pick up on any massive planned events. Obviously, people are going to visit the tour on the solstice, as is their right, and I think it is a nice thing to do, and I think people actually should, if they want to come and visit the tour, that's what should be allowed to happen. But yes, it will be busy. Yes, we will be there, and we've had more than 7 days notice of it. Yeah, I've been in the middle.
What we don't want is caravans parked in the middle of the road again and allowed to stay there for 3 days before there's enough resources to move them. If it's nipped in the bud, then it seems to be.
Yeah, okay. So to put it bluntly, the team's working tomorrow. They got 2 days off, Thursday and Friday. We're back to work Saturday, and they will be up around the tour doing what enforcement they can. Bearing in mind that obviously a lot of parking is being devolved down to NSL, and we will deal with what we can deal with.
Good, thank you.
Just clarify, but the police have powers, don't they, if anybody calls an obstruction?
Yeah.
If anybody's called obstruction on the highway, you have the power to have that vehicle removed. That would be a great asset to the...
And we used that at the summer solstice. We seized the number of vehicles causing obstruction at the summer solstice.
Okay, Councillor Ridley.
Yeah, something completely different. But we have 2 remaining benches that are still not being put out anywhere. Okay. Is it possible, now that there are fewer people hanging around in the high street, for them to go back in the high street? Because I know that shoppers really appreciate it.
I have nothing. I have no control. I was asked an opinion.
I was told it was the police and Mendip who were.
I was asked an opinion on it, and I said put them back.
So maybe we could ask Mendip to put them back.
I think what my view on it was obviously maybe to put them through rather than bunch them all together, spread them through the high street so that people walking up and down can enjoy it.
At the moment we've got 2 outside the church and we've got 2 at the top end of town, but I know that there's 2 more. Okay. And it would be really nice if we could have them back outside the church, because
my view would be perhaps to look at them elsewhere in Glastonbury for people to enjoy them. But I've got certainly. Yeah. I know they were taken away at the very first lockdown to stop people from gathering in the public space.
So is that the wish of the council, that we do try and get because we did understand it was a police request that they were removed. So.
Remember we had the benches. When they went back, we're going to have additional signage. But then to raise for Bradley District Council and the Council Henderson.
And I think that's what we've just been discussing. Yeah. So we do the 2 in tandem.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you.
And so, yeah, I was asked about it, and I said, well, perhaps the location of them should be considered. I don't want to stop people gathering where there's need, but as we're here talking about it. Excessive gatherings can cause further problems for the town, can't they? So it might need to think about where you're going to...
Because there's fewer people gathering now, it would be really nice.
Okay. That's the point. I certainly haven't blocked anything to do with the benches. Anyone who comes to me, I'm guessing.
We can ask them.
It would seem like we could go and get that done, wouldn't it?
It would be nice, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Sergeant.
No problems. Any further questions at all?
No, looks like you can escape. The social life, because I see the mayor's back. Hopefully he's brought us all a mince pie when he...
Well, I did, but we've been so long talking.
You've eaten them all.
It's very nice to see you all. Have a nice Christmas, and I will come back and I will...
Great.
See you next year.
Thank you, Ian. What was on the menu was on turkey and beef. I know you're a veggie, but
That's a general purpose at the
So we haven't got to, no, we haven't got to electing the deputy mayor.
So I hope you can hear me. It sounds like you can. Thank you very much, Ian, for holding the fort while I fulfil the time-honoured tradition of attending the Forget-Me-Not Club's Christmas lunch, which always happens on the same day as the Town Council meeting in December. So we are moving on. I'm assuming we have opened the meeting formally. Oh. So, councillors, would you be happy to stand with me to observe the silent minute? And I wonder, Samia, whether I could ask you to light the unity candle for us at the beginning of the meeting. So, as Samia lights the candle, if you would be happy to join me in standing for observing the silent minute. And we can gather our thoughts. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. So, councillors, we're moving to item 1, which is to elect a deputy mayor. And I would like to ask for nominations, please.
Your Worship, if I may, since there is a very poor attendance here this evening, wouldn't it be more sensible to defer it till next month?
I fully take on board your sentiments, Councillor Coles, but unfortunately, according to standing orders, this is something that we have to do, and I'll just look to the clerk. So I would like to nominate Councillor Serena Roney-Dougal. Do I have a seconder? Are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate, and probably refuse again, Councillor Henderson as Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Henderson has been consulted and has already informed me that he does not wish to stand as Deputy Mayor. Do we have any other nominations?
Only 4 months.
Do you have any confirmation from Nick Paul? I did see an email, I can't remember on the council website or the number.
Councillor Cottle has been in touch with the town clerk and has sent me a communication. Yes. He has no. He was expressing an interest only if no one else was able to be proposed. But I think that is correct, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So it feels like we don't have any other nominations.
Could I have a show of those all in favour of Serena Ronan-Dougal becoming Deputy Mayor? So that looks like it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Serena. Are you happy to sit out the rest of this meeting in the place that you're sat already?
I want to be as close to the window as I can be.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a bit crowded at that end for me.
I inform now you get there the first function tomorrow, the Holy Thorn. The greatest one is now at 10 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock, 9:30, yeah?
9:30 here, 10 o'clock after, 9:30 great.
If you're able, we do appreciate it's short notice.
It is a bit short notice. I really don't know that I can manage to be there for 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm awfully sorry, but I will be here for the meetings in the evening.
Thank you.
Because I know one of them is yes, property and assets, so I'll definitely be here for that.
I am able to do it, yes.
Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
I'm sure they can cut the Holy Thorn without.
Thank you. So item 2, to receive apologies of absence and to approve the reasons given. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Your Worship, I'm here with apologies this evening. Councillor Paul Lund and Elizabeth Dougal, Christine Pryor and Nick Cottle all expressed concern about this social distancing and the public gathering. Brian Out was intending to be here, but his car broke down this evening. He's phoned his apology. Councillor Barnett is unwell, and Councillor Henderson is seasonally visiting his business. I have not heard from Councillor Spine.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to declarations of interest. This is particular, councillors, to any of the items on the agenda tonight. I must declare an interest in the Towns Fund, as I am now a member of the Townsdeal Board representing the town as mayor. Are there any other declarations?
I guess I ought to declare Town Fund because of Bridesman.
I'm reporting on the Towns Fund, so I guess that's my...
Thank you. Councillors, if we are travelling through the agenda tonight and you realise that there is anything that you need to declare an interest in, please do so at the appropriate moment. We now move forward to sign as a correct record the minutes of the Town Council meeting held on the 9th of November. These are in your papers, councillors, and I draw your attention to page 31. Page 32.
May I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
It says on 116 summary of actions that one of the EV charging points is not working. I was wondering if that had been sorted yet. It's just near the bottom of summary of actions.
Reported and action. Unfortunately, the solar became repaired, reset the trip, and before they were back to Wellington, it was on again. Our own electricians now have a look at it, and I understand that they are now working again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on page?
I've mentioned this several times before. It's regarding legislation and our town clerk visit on the footpaths and gates off the A39. Can I ask Gerald, have we got a cost for those new gates yet? You said you was going to try, you measured them up, try and get a cost to replace those gates.
In answer to the question, Chair, Your Worship, sorry, it's a property assets discussion we had, but it's I have asked for a Batman engineer to provide me with a quote for the two gates, and as yet I haven't received that quote. But in parallel, I have also written to the temporary or the incumbent Section 106 officer of any district council, asking if funds could have been released to those gates, but I haven't had the price for them yet. But I haven't heard back from her either. So I have chased both this week. It's only Tuesday, but I'm going to follow that.
Thank you, councillor. We now move to page 33. And page 34. and page, unnumbered on my sheet, but 35. Councillors, do I have your agreement to sign these as a true record of the meeting? I will suffice. Thank you. And while I do so, I will ask the clerk to speak to the summary of actions from the previous meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Following the last meeting, the actions of that meeting, I can confirm that I have written to the organisers of COP26 to inform our support of Glastonbury Town Council for a change to the climate emergency protocol. As requested, Old Wells Road is featured on this agenda. You can discuss later. The police report missing from the last meeting was circulated the following day via email. I have written to Peter Hobley of Somerset County Council requesting that the legal charge be placed on a property on Windmill Hill, where there's a concern with the adjacent footpath of that property. I have also informed County Highways that following support of at 3 locations around the town, Manhouse Road, Beckley and Basket Hill Lane. I did identify names with yourself, Your Worship, for the neighbourhood plan meeting, and that first meeting was held last evening. And a news release reporting the actions of the Town Council following the COP26 programme, of which Melissa Taylor was very instrumental in delivering, has been completed and circulated. All the actions have taken place, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. We have already received the police report, so we now move to item number 7, which is to consider a planning application. It strikes me that both the chair and the deputy chair of planning are not present tonight, so I'm happy to move forward on this. The item is 2021-2419 REM, approval of a reserved matter, which is the erection of an agricultural workers dwelling at Paradise Farm, Egley Road. Mrs. C. Whitcomb, reserved matters application. So that's the first item for us to look at tonight. Joe, do we have, we do, thank you very much. I shall move out of the way for councillors. Councillors, any thoughts or opinions on this matter?
Do I need to write down can we go back one, Joe, please? So presumably it's in the brown square at the bottom, which I probably read if the drawing was right, is it? So it's well back off the road, way back behind all the buildings, because at the moment they're living in a mobile home, sort of right up the front with the buildings. So I don't think you'll even see it, to be honest.
Is it on the next slide? No.
Or on the previous slide.
Master's Corner is at the other top left. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, and the garage is opposite, and then this farm buildings are set off the road, and there's a mobile home there where the little, which is that little block.
But it's a reserve matters application, Your Worship, so is it not implied that that's already been, the site has been approved?
It's been approved. It says the detail of the landscape and the access and the appearance. So I'm guessing we're going to see that, are we?
Yeah.
Is there any elevations so we can see what it looks like?
There we are. Councillors, any thoughts?
My view, Chairman, it's going to be well settled the road. Hardly anybody's even going to notice it's there, I don't think. And they've been farming there for probably 5 years, 6 years now, and only had to put up a case to be able to prove that they could make it viable. This is basically farming the Slocum's land that the farmhouse was taken into the campus of Millfield, but the land was left there to be farmed, and obviously you need to be able to be on. I mean, they run a beef enterprise. You need to be there when you're calving. So they've run it from a caravan for all these years, I'd be happy to recommend approval.
Do I have a seconder for that recommendation? Are there any other recommendations? So can I move to vote on the recommendation, please? All those in favour? Thank you. We have a second item to look at, which is 8 times Sycamore at Gorseth, Coursing Batch, Glastonbury. It's felling works, felling trees. I suspect that's the green.
Is that the bungalow that's just re-emerged from the wilderness?
Looks like it's all done.
I mean, the sycamore's a weed, and then the place was totally right. It's quite a nice bungalow now. They turned all the rubbish.
So, Jared, are we if this work's already happened,
I'm not sure the trees, I mean, individually, the whole place was totally overgrown. As you go up, of course, it's on the left-hand side.
I should say, nice bungalow.
And there is a nice bungalow suddenly emerging from the brambles and the growth that's been all over it. And those sycamore trees will have just self-seeded and gone mad. So,
There was a conservation I made. There's only 2 trees on that plan there to plant, which will not one day affect the footings or under those on 2 properties. And the majority of those are going to have to come down one day anyway, because of the root concerns.
So, councillors, I'm looking for a proposal.
I propose that we accept the request.
Second that. So, is there any alternative proposal? So could I move to vote on the motion, please? All those in favour? Thank you very much. So now we need to receive and consider the resolutions from the meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 16th of November. The planning chair isn't with us, but these have been tabled.
No, they haven't.
Are these not them?
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, your bedroom back there, Serena.
Ah, thank you. Thought I was missing bits of paper.
So, councillors, if you could cast an eye over the planning resolutions and consider them, I would be most grateful. I think these are for noting, but if there are any comments. So, councillors, I'd now like to ask the Chair of Property and Assets to just guide us through the remainder of the sheet. Councillor Keary. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. So, councillors, we move on to now the announcement for recommendation of the Staffing Committee to appoint a transitional town clerk. I will hand this item over to Jared. Are you happy to speak to this?
I'm pleased to report that the Staffing Committee appointed Conor Ogilvie-Davidson to be the transitional town clerk. Conor is currently working at Shepperton Town Council, a role specifically in the community but without aiding funding. He has experience working nationally for 4.5 years for the Public Foundation, but importantly, he comes with dynamism
and a will to learn. And last evening, those who were at the neighbourhood planning meeting, he came to that meeting last evening for us to introduce you to him and meet you with the intention that he will pick up the remainder of the neighbourhood plan and get it through to the resolution stage in the next few months. So the plan is, because he is working at Shepherd Mallet for less than 6 months, he only has to give 1 week's notice. So he's joining us on Tuesday, the 4th of January. And please have a
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, councillors, that's a great boon for us, I'm sure, and I particularly look forward to getting the neighbourhood plan back on track now after a little while of being in what we could say is the doldrums of waiting for Mendip to move on their local plan, but there we are. So we now move to consider appropriate traffic management for Old Wells Road. Jared, I don't appear to have any papers related to this. Is this something that you're speaking to?
Well, I'll speak to it, but it's now for the 3rd time it's come onto the agenda, and I'm going to quote, if I may, find it quickly, a text message I had from Nick Hodge earlier today. Bear with me. Right. If you look at the county councillor's report under Old Wells Road, the first item, Liz Nation has suggested that we should have an on-site meeting with relevant county highways officers. I don't think like Monday, Monday, that's what she's suggesting. Nick Cole has added, I support a meeting with the county councillors at Watts Corner. What I believe would be a good idea, this is Nick, nothing, what I believe would be a good idea would be double yellow lines in an area near Watts Corner. Also traffic calming, a 20 miles per hour speed limit, and some white bollards in an area near Watts Corner. Now, of all of those, the 20 miles per hour speed limit, as we know, it took an enormous amount of time to be able to introduce that to the majority of the town here. But the other ideas are, I think, what was going through Liz Nation's mind when she was suggesting we should be highway.
As we have to stand.
Sorry. If we don't have everything in line, if we go as far as the roundabout by the hospital, is that Old Wells Road? I looked it up on Google Maps, and it is, I put in Old Wells Road, but it just says Old Wells Road. Is that Old Wells Road? Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Excuse my ignorance there.
Thank you,
The problem with the road is that it's not suited for the level of traffic that uses now, our bus route, because regularly if you're trying to use that route, buses are coming down, there are no passing places, or very few, and they're not very good. Unfortunately, it looks like we're having to rely on some of the county council for action, and as you said, it took us so long to get 4 years, it was said, to get the 20 mile an hour. It certainly needs to be a 20 mile an hour limit, I personally think. Yellow lines, yes, but again, enforcement, is there any enforcement with the park or anything else? We should certainly be going with DPW lines and 20 mile an hour limit, and realise that the planning applications were allowed, partly by us because we don't have much alternatives, onto that road really were inappropriate for the type of situation that has now developed.
Thank you. Jared, are we looking to give a recommendation or some sort of consideration to another authority here as a result of this meeting, or is this just something that we're noting tonight?
I would suggest, Your Worship, what you might want to be doing is giving me the action to organise the discussion of this legislation suggested we have, and incorporating if this is actually that same conversation. That's what I think we should do.
Councillors, so we've just heard the clerk's advice. Are we happy to go ahead with that? I will suffice. Jared, we'd be very happy if you did that. Thank you very much. So, councillors, we now move on to receive said county council report. I'm very sad that both county councillors aren't here tonight, but we do have county councillor's written report from Liz for our consideration. Councillors, is there anything we wish to mention or note in relation to the county councillor's report? Thank you. We also receive district councillors' reports. We have a written report from Councillor Henderson.
Are they on pending this evening? Our district councillors? Are they committed elsewhere as our county councillors?
No, I don't believe they are, Councillor.
This is the restriction.
I think that people are concerned about COVID, thank you. So, councillors, they have that written report. We also have a written report from Councillor Serena Roney-Dougal.
No,
Sorry, Councillor Lindsay McDougall. Serena, you're on my mind. It just came out. Lindsay McDougall. Any comments, councillors? Councillor Cottle is not here tonight. I can say that I have attended a Standards Committee meeting on the 16th of November, and there was a discussion about various aspects of the County Council standards, obviously, and there was some discussion briefly about the town deal and the way that that will be monitored moving forward. We will all remember the excellent piece of journalism around this issue, and I also attended the Audit Committee meeting on the 1st of December. Nothing particularly Glastonbury related to report back from either of those committees, and those meetings seemed to take an extraordinary amount of time to actually arrive. I think I had 2 or 3 cancellations on both of them, which only goes to show that the attention of Mendip's officers is perhaps elsewhere at this time. Very happy to take any questions. Councillors, we now move on. Item 13 is a motion tabled for tonight. The proposer and seconder of the motion aren't here, so I would be very happy just to move to vote, unless anybody wishes to particularly speak to this item.
Well, I agree with this motion, Your Worship. It's quite a sensible motion, actually. All national health employees should have vaccine. Speaking for myself, we had 4 needles in this arm now, including the booster.
I'm proposing it, John. You're not
proposing it.
No, I'm going to oppose it, but it seems to me there's a stark contrast between what you expect from the public generally and what is a condition of employment. When I was at sea, you had to have an open jacks like collar and so. And if you didn't take it, you didn't go. Simple as that. And that distinction, I think, is one of the factors which should prompt us to reject this.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anybody wish to speak in favour of the motion? So, councillors, I would move to vote. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Coles, I would urge you to read the motion before voting for it. I won't take your vote at this moment in time. Thank you. So, councillors, all those in favour of the motion? All those against? And all those abstaining? Thank you. We now move on to item 14, to receive the budget monitoring report. This is presented in your papers. There is an excellent set of notes. I'd like to ask the town clerk on behalf of the council to pass on our thanks to the responsible finance officer for such an excellent report. Councillors, anything that you wish to raise around the budget monitoring report? Councillors, if there's nothing that we wish to raise, can we move on to the schedule of payments? These.
May I make one point? I'm noticing that the Frost Fair income was 120,000. I just want to congratulate Gerard and the town hall staff and all those other people who worked so hard to make the Frost Fair actually happen, so that we actually do have £120,000 that has come in the income, which I think is amazing.
Thank you very much, and I think that is well worth recording in the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor. If the item does come up for prosperity in the agenda,
Thank you. Thank you. So, councillors, we have a schedule of payments. It goes on to the second side of the piece of paper as well. Any comments? Councillors, do I have your agreement to sign the schedule of payments as approved by the council? I will suffice. Thank you. We now move on to the advisory committees, and number 1, 16A, the Frost Fair. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Bishop. And I was going to do exactly as the Deputy Mayor has just said, to just make councillors aware of the sterling work that our staff did during the day, and their courage in sticking with us and making sure that we actually did manage to deliver in the view of the weather. We do have a few outstanding things that we need to talk about, because on the day we did promise people that if they couldn't put up a stall on that particular day, we would give them a definite pitch for next year. And the terms of the conditions were that you didn't, it was an at-risk event, so if you paid your money, you lost it if you we didn't hold the event, or you couldn't come. But actually, because we held the event, but people with a gazebo weren't able to trade, we might have to make a decision as to how we would progress that. Whether we need to have another Frost Fair committee meeting just to consider those issues and have a wash up, or whether you want to make some sort of decisions today, I don't know. I would have suggested perhaps in the new year it might be worthy of a wash-up meeting, and to just learn a few lessons and just perhaps bring it to a conclusion, and then we could actually contact the various people. But actually, I think we managed to pull off quite a successful event, and we certainly had the support of the public. And I would concur with Deputy Mayor in thanking our staff for all the work they did, both in advance and during the day, and being prepared to sort of really go the extra mile to actually make it happen. So that's it.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. On the agenda for next week's meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, I have asked the Responsible Finance Officer to add an item on the Frost Fair, because there's a requirement to give back some of the stallholders if there is financial impact in these discussions. And I'm suggesting we put that on the agenda. The point is something we should discuss later in the new year, and we just do on the item, the least on the item to be discussed.
Is that something that you're happy with?
Yeah, I am, Your Worship, but my understanding is that cross-fair money is ring-fenced anyway, so therefore it won't probably affect it wouldn't affect the precept because we wouldn't factor it into the calculations.
But it could affect the budget.
It could affect the balance.
Balance of budget, which is why we're putting there. That's why continuously put there, easy taken out if you don't discuss it.
So, Councillor Tucker, is there anything that you would hope from this council meeting tonight to resolve around anything outstanding related to Crossfair?
No, Your Worship, only that I think it would be useful for us to, in the new year, just to organise a brief half an hour, just that we could look. We've previously done it.
As an advisory committee? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I just comment, Your Worship, that the fact that we were able to continue in a reduced way in circumstances, feedback from most of the retailers I've talked to in the high street is that they had exceptional days, that the event was very worthwhile in terms of income to the town. The only disappointment, which was beyond our control, was that in moving the stalls down from the top of the high street, the businesses at the top end who would have expected to have entertainment at the top and also stalls up that would have dragged the people all the way up, I think they suffered, but that was beyond our control. Otherwise, I think it was exceptionally well done and successful.
Hear, hear. And I must say, for Councillor Serena Ronan-Dougal and Councillor Tucker, you both excelled on the day and excelled in helping us get things arranged. And I thought that all the councillors who were involved and all the volunteers did an absolutely remarkable job on that day. What a testimony to this council. Thank you very much. So we now move to Glastonbury in Bloom. Councillor Smythe is not here. Are we happy, councillors, just to pass on to the next item?
Sorry, Councillor. I was going to add that tomorrow is the planting of a pencil, which is the name of the real tree.
Oh, yes.
And that's being funded from the Blue budget. And that's taking place at the North Lieutenant Hall. Planting that tomorrow at the White Police Post. That's immediately after the Police Board.
So that's going to be around about sometime between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, we're imagining. Is that correct? Thank you. So, climate emergency, Councillor Serena Ronan-Dougal.
Yes. We have, as always, our meetings are excellent. You will have received this evening the report on the decarbonisation programme for the town hall. Gerard sent it out just before the meeting, and Melissa told us at the report for the climate emergency group we'd be receiving that, and we have just received that. Melissa also reported on the COP26 events, and that she's collating the information that was received from the open day, which will inform the next steps that we consider Glastonbury needs to take in terms of our climate and ecological emergency and how best we can make Glastonbury resilient and adaptable. And a key thing of that is setting up a citizens' assembly. And this is where one gets experts in, together with a representative selection of townspeople, a bit like a jury chosen at random, so that you get a wide section of the population. And they then discuss how best we can make Glastonbury resilient and adaptable in the face of the emergency. So we're going to be working towards that. The next thing that came up was about rewilding, because this is part of a whole move to make sure that Glastonbury is resilient in terms of food, that we have good pollinator plants for keeping our insects good. And some people attended the CPRE event in Somerton, where there were experts who were speaking on this particular topic. One of our members now is a local farmer, and he is keeping us informed about agroecology. So in other words, making sure that the agriculture in the area is ecologically appropriate and will be resilient in face of the emergency. And we also discussed once against the allotments, because there's real concern that where they are at the moment and the proposed third allotment, within the next decade are going to be underwater, because all the projections for the rises in sea levels are that actually all of the major cities of the world are going to be underwater by the end of this decade, let alone our allotments down on the moors. So we really need to keep the push to get the sites that Gerard has identified, which are on higher land and on the south side of Glastonbury, and get those secured to be able to become allotments when the ones we have at present are flooded. So we really need to keep moving on that one, because food security is vital. You know, it's everybody needs to eat. We've got to make sure that Glastonbury is as secure in its food as we can possibly make it. So that was an important one. Then there were various other business ones. So carbon footprinting came up, which is where people can check their own personal lives and houses, how much carbon they are emitting. And Melissa has put 3 different carbon footprinting website links on the climate emergency page of the Glastonbury Town Council page, and we would like to encourage everyone to have a look at these so that we can decide which one we think is the best to try to distribute widely around Glastonbury, so that the residents and businesses in Glastonbury can themselves identify where they are doing well and where they're not doing so well in terms of their carbon footprinting. So that came up. Yep. Oh no, and one other thing is that the people who are doing the walking in Glastonbury, I can't remember their name, but they have had another meeting and they're moving forward with encouraging and enabling tourists and other people to walk more freely around the town. So yeah, as always, a very instructive and efficient and well attended meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any questions for climate emergency? Thank you. I think it's extremely pertinent considering the outcome of COP, where the policies, if they are implemented by the government, will see a 2.4 degrees increase in temperatures above pre-industrial levels. If you would care to look at any of the reports that are given on what that means, you'll clearly see that most of Somerset will be underwater with that level of increase within the next 50 to 100 years. So this is quite pertinent for us and something we really need to bear in mind. Councillor March.
You said the end is dead.
Yep.
Not the end of the sentence.
So there was a scientist who did the early, yeah, please do sit down. There was a scientist who did all the early work on the modelling of what was happening with regard to carbon dioxide levels. And his work was first published in the early 80s and was the work that gave rise to the term greenhouse effect. And in that research and that work, he actually made various predictions. So far, all of his predictions have come true. And one of his predictions is that by the end of this decade, sea levels will have risen to the point that, because all of the world's major cities are ports, because everything used to travel by boat in previous eras, and so they're all on estuaries and they are all at sea level.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bishop.
I did quickly glance on the report for the town hall in Dunstan. It did make very good reading, really. For the future, I think we're going to miss a 2030 target for the town hall. And the only thing I've expect is just it does hard to really get that one right, to enable us. But this original building is going to be money draining source, I think, on the town council in years to come.
Thank you. No.
Just a quick shot. I glanced over.
Thank you, Clive.
Deputy Mayor maybe to be able to reinforce that, or did I read it wrong?
I really thank you for bringing that one up, because we have got serious problems that we need to consider.
Thank you, councillors. So we now move on. The Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Committee, sadly with the resignation of Councillor Brown, there was a vacant seat there in steering this, and I was happy to step into that breach. I hope that's acceptable to councillors to take on making sure that these meetings continue. There is a little bit of a hiccup, I suppose we could say, and what I've asked for the next meeting, which will be on the 12th of January, which is, you'll have to bear with me, I think it's a Wednesday, it's a Wednesday, the 12th of January, at 7 o'clock, is really to convene the existing group and perhaps a few people who are wishing to attend, now things have changed, to just take stock of where we are and come up with some idea of where we would like to be and how we get there. So I hope that that's okay. I'm having only just recently taken the reins, that's all I'm really able to say, but I do hope councillors, if you would be happy to join me on Wednesday the 12th of January, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. So we now go to reports from outside bodies. Councillor Tucker, the Town's Deal Fund.
Thank you, Bishop. So I can report that since the last meeting, I've now taken Julie Ridder-Sullivan and the Senior Planning Officer around the town to look at various pieces of land, particularly with where we might help the travelling community, but also in terms of where we might have put the parking for the transport, and hopefully I've shown them some opportunities that they perhaps haven't thought of before.
Very good.
And tried to put a bit of commercial spin to it so that they can see some advantages in doing some of these things. Nathan from Dome Marketing now seems to have got a grip on the sort of issues of promoting, and that seems to be working better. And I understand that there is a project manager now being appointed, although we were promised some input into that. We haven't had that, but I'm told that that's going to be announced at the Friday board meeting. So it would seem that things are progressing now, and you'll see that Steve's project has got a project manager appointed now for the Tour Leisure. We're all working through various marketing and economic cases at the project level, and these are being sort of monitored, encouraged and chivied by the McDonald Group, who are the people that men have taken to do the work. So there is a lot of work going on in the background, and the new chairman seems to be taking it, or acting chairman seems to be taking it very, very seriously, and seems to be really trying to pull it together. Certainly the last board meeting we had, I thought was really positive. You were there, I think, Your Worship, and I think it is a huge undertaking, and I can see with all the other things that men have got on their plate that this is just yet another. But with a bit of luck, we'll be able to pull it off, I reckon.
Thank you very much. It's still very encouraging. Of course, it's a great delight when someone says, here's all the money, but then, of course, here comes the hard work, and that's really where we're at, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Ronaydu.
Thank you. Well, when you were looking at the land with regard to travellers and park and ride, Were you also looking at land with regard to the renewable energy scheme?
We certainly were. We looked at I think we looked at every piece of land within the red line, which I think I don't quite understand why they hadn't looked at every piece of land inside the red line, but we took a trip round and, I mean, I guess that everybody's working from home. They're all working from plans. They live miles away, miles and miles away, so they've got no local knowledge at all. And it's really tricky when you look at things on a plan and then actually sit and you know, I took them a morning. First of all, we came in here and looked at it on the plan, and then we actually went out and looked at it in the field. And it looks totally different when you're actually in the field and looking at the different levels. So, yes, we did.
And were you able to identify a potential site?
We identified lots of things. So I think it opened their eyes to lots of opportunities and perhaps some moving around of the jigsaw pieces that they hadn't actually considered previously that actually might make it better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and very useful question. Can anyone else wish to speak to Towns Fund? So we move on to communications. I would just like to say that in years gone by, there was obviously mayor's announcements, and of course there hasn't been much going out that the mayor's been doing lately, but I can say that things have changed slightly, and I was able to go on the 25th of November. I went to the Somerset Chairman's Award at Taunton Rugby Club, which is always a very good event, and lots of various chairs and mayors and local people who do great things were there. Speaking of local people doing great things, I was very pleased that Councillor Bishop and Councillor Barnett and I were able to attend the Christmas display of the Edge Gymnastics in the Town Hall, which was on Saturday the 4th of December, and it was quite spectacular, wasn't it?
It was nice to see something that had progressed through finance provided by
Here.
as you see, I think it was probably 40 local individuals enjoying a hobby and a sport.
Was certainly an excellent display, and on the 11th of December I had the honour of joining Children's World at Abbey House, and we had key worker awards there, which were key workers from all over Somerset actually, who've been nominated through the Children's World scheme that the Youth Committee of Children's World put together to actually honour those people who went above and beyond and did the extra mile during the lockdown. I was very pleased to say that two of the winners were Gina Ty-Wharton for the fridge and Tanya Moore for the community support network here in Glastonbury. So it was very nice to see them receiving their awards at that meeting. Any other communications and announcements? Jared, have you got anything for us in communications announcements?
Yes, I've had notification from the Somerset, like we're actually into the name, so in the degree, but we have something that's confirming that there will be an election on the 5th of May 2022. And importantly, we agreed also to the alliance the 21st of March 2022. That's what we will present. So, in making tickets and financial and trying to get rid of the two states, it's vitally important to get it as much as possible can, and our else.
So, 21st of March, of course, is a spring equinox type day. So we've got between solstice to equinox to sort ourselves out, I suppose. Councillors, that means for this council that unlike the normal precedent of 4-year terms, this council will have a 3-year term. And we will be moving to election at the same time as the New Unitary Authority election. So we maybe wish to be mindful of that considering any of the things that we'd like to put forward as policies between now and March. Of course, we won't be able to do much after March. And also considering any of the projects that we've been undertaking over the last few years, which of course we quite rightly thought we might have another year to bed in or whatever. Extremely unfortunate timing, I imagine, in relation to the Town Deal Fund and the fact that this could be, which may be a good thing, a completely different council on the second week of May. So we need to make sure that we are robust and resilient to that change, and that we make sure that the work that we're doing is future-proofed to some degree, so that there'll be a smooth operational transition between the old and the new. Any correspondence, Gerald?
Thank you. Two items of correspondence, Mr. Chair, here. One is from Mrs. Jackie Bushell, who has formally made a complaint about the fact that the skate park lights are not working. This is to be on the agenda for the financial and other purposes committee meeting. There's property assets were reported to last time that they left, informing that there's a likely bill of £9,000 to change lights to LED and put the plans in, etc., to bring them up to a plus rate. I'm sharing with you the correspondence with Mr. Jackie Bushell. I have been regularly in contact with her, Your Worship, so she's not left time. I've definitely let her spend her day sort of time out. Mrs. Bushell's aware of that, but I wasn't even aware that there has been a complaint raised. And a second concern raised with the complaint, this time from the Glastonbury Conservation Society, and I'll read it. It's from Adrian Pearce, the chairman, and it reads: Hanover Square. The current condition of Hanover Square was discussed by our committee recently, and the gradual proliferation of waste into this area over the last couple of years has, in our opinion, had a detrimental effect on the gains made by visual improvements. We wonder if the town council can take the situation to hand to ensure that these gains are not thereby lost. We have, in the not too distant past, tried to identify which bins they were, but no consultants have them moved. I also came up with an idea of actually putting them behind the screen, so they're still there. But both of those, I guess, need now to be further debated and discussed. Those property assets at the appropriate time. You should be aware of that concern raised with the correspondence.
Thank you. It strikes me that there's perhaps certainly one or two businesses which have changed ownership or changed management recently, who may be unaware of the work that was done previously on this, and well, I look forward to us trying to resolve that. Councillor Tucker.
Yes, Your Worship. Denny was relentless on this, and she had them all back in on the premises that they originated from. And it's only because she's not been there to badger them that they've all seen they can put it out. Why would you have a smelly bin in the back of your premises if you can stick it out in the middle of the street? And that's exactly what they've all done, and one's followed another. They all got that back courtyard. There is no reason for these bins to be there. They haven't been there for probably 5 or 6 years, and suddenly they all just crept back out. And I think we need to be much firmer and get them back onto people's premises. There's no reason why they should. We don't have people down Benedict Street with their wheelie bins all parked out in the street, so why should we allow it in Hanover Square? It is the route into town from Silver Street Car Park. We spent a lot of money with the screen, with the new name over the top, with all the tubs. We cleaned it up, they've done the artwork, and now suddenly it's full of dustbins. And I think that's totally unacceptable, and I think we need to get on top of it.
Hear, hear. Thank you. So we will move to Clive. Thank you, Councillor Bishop. Would you mind standing?
I was contacted by a resident concerning the topic of a couple of map of the hedge down on Barry Bay. I did visit that site today, and quite a lot of with the remaining ownership of the head or hedges that I just wanted to know something about bringing here this bit.
Yes.
And then we'll pass it on to the clerk. Perhaps Roger to the progressives, perhaps them to address problems with the public footpath.
It is.
County Councillor, Terry Napper, I don't know why she hasn't come straight to me. I was a bit perplexed, really, but it's nice.
Yes.
It's nice, and I think that it needs to be resolved. But obviously, as a trainer, just can't go around and pretend it doesn't belong.
Thank you. Well, there is, it's always worth alerting, if a member of the public comes to us in that respect, alerting the district and county councillors to that fact, letting the person who is talking to you know who to contact, who their district councillor is and who their county councillor is. And it's always worth CCing the town clerk so that we're aware of it, because invariably, although it's not our job, if it does cause a danger to the public because of having to walk out, there is always, as a last resort, something perhaps that we may be able to take in hand, considering the length of time it might take the wonderful other authorities to do these things. They're obviously so busy. Thank you very much. So, any other correspondence? Councillors, we move on to news release. It strikes me that it's quite wonderful that we have selected a new transitional town clerk, but I'm also conscious that the transitional town clerk has to give their notice to their existing job. Is it prudent for us to wait on a news release?
I would like you to wait that until such time as I see references in the other. I didn't see our side, but I don't want to embarrass.
No, quite right. So it strikes me too that it could be extremely useful for us to start promoting the fact that we're going to get the neighbourhood plan back on track, which will require some further consultation. It might be worth reminding folk that we're in process. I don't know if that's newsworthy. Councillors?
Yes.
Gerard, could we do a brief summary of what the neighbourhood plan is, where we're at with it, and that we're intending in the spring to move forward to creating the plan that we will submit, and that we would like the full engagement of members of the community as they have done before, and that we will be out and about consulting, something along those lines? Thank you. That is a really excellent idea. Yes, we should do that. And perhaps we could take a photograph at the end of this meeting, if you're happy to do that. Thank you. And I think that's about it. For any other ideas for news release?
I think that a council of 7 is the ideal number to get us into the pub before 9 o'clock.
So, actions arising from meeting. Gerard, would you have to speak to this?
Just for your worship, you have action made to speak to I-30 via the district council and have the benches reinstated in the high street. You have instructed me to consult or engage with the county council and the district councillor of the area and have an on-site meeting to discuss all for the traffic speeding. And the an action that I took upon myself, you didn't raise it, but Councillor Rose Dibble implied that I need to change up the alternative allotment sites and follow that one up. But I think that was it for you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I now declare the meeting closed. And it's not even 9 o'clock, isn't that
right? That's the first time, isn't it? We finished before 10?
Yeah. My record was 20 minutes.
I'm gonna try and beat your record then, John. Get us done by 8:30 next time.
Ian, this will amuse you. I thought if there was going to be a debate about it, I would remind people that we always used to have these. Yeah, to show you'd been jabbed before you could go get your visa for Africa or India or wherever.
Yeah.
Right.
It was considered absolutely normal.
Are you here tomorrow morning? Yeah. You're here tomorrow morning? You're here tomorrow morning?
Stretch out and get rid of
She's not going to come.
It was needed,
Yeah,
but it
she won't
wasn't.
come tomorrow. I don't.
They're sent out a message already.
I had a check with
She won't want to go, I don't think. I will be there.
What are you doing, Enoch?
Not too
Well, I just opened up an email from Tom Miller, TC, Street Manager, who's concerned that NSL are saying they don't have anybody working on Solstice Day. No. It's leaving. Yeah. That's NS. The police are working, but not NSL. So I'll follow that up with. Jared, that was Jared. Tomorrow night. Oh, do you want to be here? What do you want to do?
If I want to have turnout like this in my meeting here, that's what it's doing. Yeah. Seriously.
This is we've got to wear a mask because it's a private building. That's the rule. But if it's a private council meeting, yeah. If there's no notice, can we get rid of these? So tomorrow night, but I will still have safety distance. Yeah, that's fine. We can sit all over the place. Safety, we've got to take it. Well, they say you've got to imagine the person next to you. Sorry. Oh, Susanna Cummings. Susanna Cummings. No, Clements. Oh, yeah. So, I was a bit perplexed. And basically, I went down to the and the rest of the thought was that I requested I failed to meet her. So people should be registered rather than me as you chase around looking at something that doesn't know it's going to be there. So would that be okay if I say to her, put another look, rather than take a picture? Susanna plays the field. She knows the way around. Yeah.
Joe, are you happy to grab on this here? You're happy to stand this side with me? One that's landscape as well.
This is our vertical one. And a landscape go back a bit.
It's a bit weird for the last one.
But it's right in the middle.
One more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
See you tomorrow at